Hey guys, it's your boy, Ballface8020, back again with another great response video. Um, for this video, we're doing more Rollo Tomasi. This time it's him coping with his defeat, for lack of a better word, and his debate, for lack of a better word, with Mikhaila Peterson. So let's see here. It's going to be hard because I got my screen thing in the way. Hopefully I can there we go. Oh, but I have no way to hit the play button. Okay, sorry. So, yeah, let me turn the volume up a little bit here. So, Mikhaila, after her debate against Rollo, she, received a lot of feedback on it, and she talked about it, I guess, when she went on shows with other people. Here she's with this guy, Hafiz, who I'm not too familiar with. I will say that if this is the same Hafiz who associates with Fresh and the Fit, everything I've heard about him is very negative. But in this interview, he comes off very well. So I don't really know. Maybe it's a different Hafiz. Uh, so anyway, the thing is, I don't know how familiar you guys are with the debate. Again, like I say, for lack of a better word, between um, what's her name again, Mikhaila and Rollo. I came away from watching it kind of wondering what all the fuss was about because, it's boring, like you'd expect. I got gained nothing from it, like you'd expect, and Rollo came off as a creepy weirdo, like you'd expect. So this idea that Rollo was like humiliated or eviscerated on it, I just didn't see that. And it was actually, right before I was making this video that I think it started to kind of make sense to me. I think what happened is, Rollo's a nobody, Michaela's not. Um, and you have all these people who are familiar with Mikhaila who have no idea who Rollo is. So, Mikhaila does her show with that, and people see Rollo, and this is the first time people ever see Rollo. So, so to me, Mikhaila versus Rollo just looks like two boring people, one of whom is a weirdo with some type of psychological disorder, talking about shit that I don't care about. But to people who aren't familiar with Rollo, it looks like Mikhaila is destroying him. Just because she may not be destroying him in any debate per se, but she's coming off as a normal person, and he's coming off as a weirdo pushing some nonsensical ideology. So I think that's where the idea that she humiliated him came from. And that would explain to me because, like for me, I watched the debate again. I don't know if you can even really call it that. And I just didn't see it as this one-sided slaughter of them. But then I also noticed though that Rollo himself clearly believes that he lost the debate, which is why you see him making a lot of excuses about it and doing stuff like continuing to talk about it on his own personal channel. It looks like he's finally moved on now, but still he was talking about it for a while, whereas I doubt Mikhaila even remembers who Rollo is. And I think that's where you got the reaction from, because people are like, they know Mikhaila, she came after it's reasonable, and Rollo is just like, who is this guy? What's going on here? If you weren't familiar with him, yeah, of course, you'd think that she won or she humiliated him. But really, all that happened was she conducted an interview, and he humiliated himself the same way he humiliates himself every time he opens his mouth. That's all there is to it. So anyway, she's here. Hafiz is interviewing her. I guess the subject in this clip of the video is her like experience with the red pill, the manosphere, and with Rollo in particular. So let's get into it.
Research, what are some of the things that you've come to realize about some of that space? I'm just curious how you've processed it.
I think that.
Okay. She just said, I haven't done any research. She just said, I have been naive about this whole thing.
Yeah, and then she also said that she did pretty extensive research on you before she interviewed you. She told this to you directly then. So I'm not sure what she said beforehand, but if she was saying that she hasn't wasn't familiar still was not familiar with the red pill, she misspoke. Cuz obviously she has done some research on it and has been exposed to the community at least in at least somewhat. And I think what she was saying, and I think it becomes very clear when you listen to the rest of what she says right here, is that she had been naive before really researching the red pill. I think that she has a pretty good understanding now of what the red pill community is about.
That look on her face right there is a look of confusion.
No, it's not.
For like the serious like red pill, depending on the person, but some of those people are angry, like really angry. Like usually when I have a conversation with someone, and I'll bring like left wing people on the podcast too, and generally speaking, I can have a conversation with anybody, and generally speaking, we leave feeling like, okay, that was a reasonable conversation. And with Rollo in particular, it was like that didn't feel, nothing about that felt good. We didn't leave on the same level at all. And I think some of those people there's some like anger towards women going on, and that's the criticism.
All right. If you did left.
Okay, well, first of all, just what she said about on the same level, the reason that I didn't see the whole thing. I saw less than half of it, but that was more than enough. She didn't feel like there was any type of productive conversation because there wasn't. Like, I mean, have you guys seen any of this? Like, I mean, it was like talking to a brick wall. Like the guy just has nothing of value to say. It would be like, it would be like having a conversation with somebody who's saying that like, uh, that Zeus is like the one true god living on Mount Olympus, and his wife is Helena, and then there's Aphrodite, who's almost as beautiful as Helena. That these are all literal gods. They're literally living on Mount Olympus in Greece, and they're like controlling stuff like that. A conversation with somebody who was seriously advocating that wouldn't be productive because it's just a bunch of nonsense. And that's really what it is with Rollo, is he's basically just promoting a bunch of nonsense. This is beyond the fact that he has a very annoying way of debating, where he just kind of doesn't answer questions, and he does a lot of I don't even want to call it gish gallop, filibustering almost, like where he just talks and talks and talks, as opposed to like coming up with a point or addressing a point that you made. Um, but he always seems to think he's won. So I think why she felt that way. Whereas like you can be talking to somebody left wing who maybe doesn't like Mikhaila's beliefs or whatever, but she can at least feel like even if they don't agree at all with each other, that there's some level of understanding that the conversation created. Now, in my experience, I'm not sure what kind of left wing people she was talking about. In my experience, you were very rarely going to get any kind of understand. I don't mean agreement. I mean just understanding from somebody on the left. They don't. They genuinely. I know I'm biased because I don't like them. Two, I genuinely believe that they're irredeemably evil. But I'm pretty good about holding my biases in check. In my experience with liberals, and there I can think of one very notable exception, and that would be Matthew Yglesias. They just don't have the ability to understand alternative points of view, like the way we do. Like we can like disagree with an alternative point of view, but understand it. You know who else? Obama had it. We can disagree with a point of view, but still understand it. Liberals can't. And so I'm not sure what liberal she's talking about. But Rollo is that kind of same thing. He can't, I know Rollo's not a liberal, but his mind kind of has the same, what do you call it, pathology that liberal minds often have, with just a complete inability to understand the, alternative points of view, and it's truly in Rollo's world, it really is. If you don't agree with what I said, it's because you didn't understand it. Like that's seriously, anything else doesn't compute for him. Um, Sorry, I kind of lost my train of thought here, but anyway, I think that's what she was trying to get at. So let's hear what Rollo has to say.
If you left the conversation and you didn't feel good about any of that, I succeeded.
No, you didn't, because she didn't feel bad because you hurt her or made her face some uncomfortable or unpleasant truths. She felt bad because insofar as she felt bad, which is not what she said. She felt like she left the conversation with without creating. She understood when the conversation ended that you had gained nothing from it. That you had no, it's not just that you didn't agree with her, that you truly had no insight to how she felt or what her thoughts were. You didn't understand her positions before the conversation, and you continued to not understand it after. Not that you didn't agree with them, that you didn't even understand it. After an hour and a half of talking, she made no progress with you whatsoever. And I mean, this is amazing that that would happen. She would talk about it, and then you wouldn't take that. You've actually ironically further proven her point. You would take her expressing frustration with her inability to get you to understand the basic point she was trying to make. Not agree with them, just understand him. And you misunderstood that. You misunderstood that as a sign that you're right.
Comfort the afflicted and afflict the comfortable. That's my goal right now, especially when it comes to the work and the talk.
Well, you may comfort the afflicted. I mean, I think there may be something to that, although it's a false comfort. But afflicting the comfortable, I've never seen you do that. I've never seen you do that. I've never seen anybody be uncomfortable from any of your points. Now, maybe I haven't watched enough of your stuff, but like I've seen like Nick Fuentes really get under people's skin. I've seen like a lot of people do it and really make people uncomfortable, and kind of like if in like an internet debate you mad way, if that's what you mean. Um, I've seen people do that. I've seen people get people like humiliate other people into debates where they had them, unable to answer their questions and stuff. And I've never seen anything like that from you. Again, maybe I just haven't seen enough stuff, but that stuff does happen. But from what I've seen, you've never managed to do it, which is amazing for somebody who speaks as much as you do. Honestly, I think Myron does it better than you even.
Talk that I do. When it comes to my books, afflict the comfortable, comfort the afflicted. And that's where we're at right now. Of course it didn't taste good. Of course it didn't leave a good, feeling at the end of that. Is that what your point was? Because
no, it wasn't. And unsurprisingly, you completely missed what her point was. That was not her point at all. It's not even close.
I can tell you right now, that's not what your point was. We're gonna.
No, exactly. You're right. It wasn't.
We're gonna tease that one out here in just a second. But that wasn't your point. That was certainly not the purpose of our talk. And I have a much clearer perspective of all that at this point. So let's keep going here. But again, was that supposed to be the goal? To feel good about everything afterwards? No, I don't care if you feel good or bad after my shows. I care that you're educated. I care that you have the data.
Rollo. Educated. I mean, I have thought about this before I made the video. I thought about it. I literally have learned more from Casey Zander than I have from you. I mean, there's never been anything remotely educational in anything you've said that I've seen. Now, I haven't read your book, so I don't know. Like, I mean, it's hard for me to imagine that there's anything in all of them put together. Even what is it, 5 or 6? I can't remember. But no, no, there's no education with you. Again, I'm being serious. Like, yeah, Casey sucks. Whatever, man. He's a snake oil salesman. He's hurting guys with the bullshit he peddles. It's all true. have I actually ever learned anything from Casey? I think no, but somehow even though I've never learned anything from him, I've still learned more from him than I have for you. That's how uneducational your stuff is.
I care that you have the tools to build a better life. And I hope that can make you feel good. Absolutely. I hope that you can build a better lifestyle. I hope you can chase excellence. I hope you can date women. I hope you can at least
chase excellence. I thought that was a Casey thing, but no, you know what I'm confusing him with is Red Pill Chris says that. He says chase excellence, not women. So I don't know if Red Pill Chris picked it up from Rollo.
understand that, yeah, women are the enemy. No, women are not the enemy. But you still have to understand women's nature. It's just like 48 laws of power.
Well, okay. I mean, and I'll give Rollo a bit of a break here. He, I don't know if break's the right word, like some credit, and I don't even know if that's the right word, because Rollo's got his, things with masculinity and stuff, but I don't feel like he's really pushed the women are the enemy thing um, as much as some others have. I think that, like, I mean, on one hand you've got, the undead chronic and the warband types who are just unapologetic about it, that they're like, they're just, out front with it, that they hate women. Then you've got the more moderate types, I guess you could say, who are still like, maybe they're MGTOWs, but they're maybe not as extreme as, the real hardcore guys. Um, the And then you've got uh and so if you wanted an example of those guys, and I know that, so one of those would be like MGTOW guys, but another example would be just other kind of red pillars. Like a really good example is Roosh, who's obviously got very serious issues with women. I mean, I don't know what he's like anymore, but like back when he was doing the PUA stuff, he had serious issues with women, but he wasn't like explicitly on the women or the enemy thing like, undead chronic types are, but he also um was, at least had a foot in at least had, a foot in that world, so to speak. He definitely had antipathy. And Rollo, I would say, is even less than somebody like Roosh. Even really less than somebody like Roisy, if you guys remember who he is, who's less than somebody like Roosh. So, yeah, I mean, I think he's. It's tough to say because Rollo has to understand that even if he's not saying women are the enemy, and I think Mikhaila brought this up in her conversation with him, his audience. He's feeding into his audience resentment. His audience who is feeling like that women are the enemy and stuff. And he's pushing that. Um, so I mean, in that sense, I guess that he's right. He. If we're just going to go by what he preaches, he doesn't really preach that women are the enemy per se. He basically says that, in so many words, women are corrupt by nature. That women are very mercenary and they are not even capable of love. Men are capable of romantic love, but women aren't. And and I don't know if he acknowledges that there can be exceptions. Maybe he does. In my experience, he seems to be too autistic even for that. But maybe let's say there can be exceptions. But the overwhelming majority, that's basically how it is. And that it has nothing to do with hating women. It's just about understanding their debased nature so you can work and have a good relationship around that, like he himself supposedly does. Um, so yeah, so I guess in that sense, he's probably not. He's probably, when it comes, if you're just going to talk about being anti-woman, he's probably one of the better ones in the red pill community, and that he's not as far as some others. But on the other hand, that's what he's playing to with his audience. And maybe he's trying to get them out good way with that. I don't know, but I mean, there's definitely his audience does feel that way, even if maybe he himself doesn't, and even if that isn't what his message is.
oh, it's an evil book. No, it's not an evil book. You need to know those laws.
I mean, it's not evil in the way that Mein Kampf is evil, but it's I would say that there's an evil to it if you're publishing something that is going to lead guys down a path that is going to be unhealthy for them, and to maybe and maybe will even lead it to, like, when it doesn't work, because it won't, because it's nonsense. You can make it so they'll become dangerous, and hurt themselves, hurt others, and the others could be women who get victimized, women in their lives. So yeah, I think that calling it an evil book, I mean, maybe it's a bit over dramatic, but I think it's fair.
Does that mean you're going to use all of those laws and be a sinister dark triad fiend, Machiavellian fiend? Because
Well, again, you're the average person who reads these books is not going to be very intelligent, and a very big chunk of them are going to take that message from your books, that the way to be successful with women and just to be successful in life is to become this dark triad Machiavellian feat. Absolutely, I guarantee you that it will be the reaction for a lot of people, and probably has been.
No, it behooves you to know those things so that you know what to expect from people, so that you know when those laws are being used against you. So yeah, good. I hope I didn't leave a good taste in your mouth, Mikhaila.
The red pill community gets to is like, why do you hate women? But like, and initially I thought that was kind of a misrepresentation in the media, like everything else is a misrepresentation. But I think that there are some red pilled people that really don't like women, and you can see it pretty clearly.
Yeah, and I was thinking about that. I was thinking, like, she said there's some. It really it's I don't know if you wanted to say some or most or all, because I think it goes without saying that most. So I was trying to think: do all red pilled women, red red pilled guys hate women? Hate is such a strong word, and it's such a loaded word that I don't know if it can be used productively in this context. I think you could fairly say yes. I would say that every red pill person, every serious person. I don't mean some, like, guy who might casually, like, watch Casey Zander or something, who might believe a red pill a little bit in the abstract. Though that's pretty basically harmless. But everybody who in the sphere, out of the red pill sphere, who takes the red pill seriously as a philosophy, every single one of them has antipathy towards women as a group. That would include Rollo. Again, Rollo's at the lower end of the spectrum, in that he's more about the autistic, like, this autistic ideology aspect, as opposed to it actually being about women. But even then, it's still there is still an antipathy towards women. And we can talk about the source of that all day long, because it's probably different for a lot of different people. But yeah, I think it's fair to say. So I mean, if she's saying Rollo is one of those guys, I would have to disagree with her. I would have to strongly disagree with her on that, like, very strongly, or maybe not very strongly, but I would strongly disagree with her on that, if that's what she's saying, like Rollo, because yeah, there's people in the red pill community who really do hate, like, hate is the correct word, hate women as a group, and I would say that you could make a really good case that somebody like Roosh is one of them, but I don't think you can make the case. I think you could make the good case that Myron is one of them. I don't think you could make the case, a real good case, that Rollo is. No, that's not true. You can make a case, but it would be the weakest of all of them. That Rollo is something like that.
And it's not for the betterment, like teaching people that all women are a certain way or all men are a certain way. I don't think that that's going to actually make things better, make people get along better. Yeah.
All right. Once again, we're leaning into binary extremes here. How many times?
That's your entire career, for lack of a better word. I'm sorry, am I saying lack of a better word too much? Your entire career or manosphere preaching thing has been leaning into binary extremes.
As I said, we live in the TLDR generation. quick hit, give me another info bite as I drive through.
No, look, I get where you're going with this. You're saying that you're saying basically, Rollo's saying, look, I use extremes to illustrate points, but and we don't have time to go into all the details and stuff like that. But really, these are just archetypes. They're not meant to be interpreted literally. The thing is, every time I see you talking about and debating it, it's pretty clear to me. I'm not supposed to say it seems because he doesn't like when you talk about perceptions or feelings or whatever, but it's pretty clear to me that you think these archetypes are broadly descriptive and that, yeah, there may be some exceptions, but for the most part, these things you say about men as a group and as women as a group are overwhelmingly the case for all women or all men.
To the drive-through at McDonald's and throw it in my mouth. I've got places to go. Thank you thank you. I got things to do. That's not what the red pill's about. It takes time. It takes time to understand it. It seems like
it really doesn't. It really doesn't. It's neither does the black pill for that matter. Now the thing is, that could be why both and I know that I've been one of these people who gets on here and say like, well, that goes against what the black pill teaches us. Well, and I'm not apologizing for that, but I will say that like there are certain axioms you can get from the black pill that have value, but I wouldn't even the black pill, which is the truth as opposed to the nonsensical red pill. I wouldn't say that you understand these black pill concepts and that you explain everything in the universe with them. The black pill is very simple. It's not really broadly descriptive because it's not meant to be. The red pill, its complexity only comes from having to deal with its inherent, nonsensicalness and contradictions that are within the red pill itself. So no, it doesn't take time to understand the red pill. The red pill is very easy to understand, just like the black pill. I mean, if anything's hard to understand, it's the blue pill. I mean, that's the one that's got a little bit of nuance to it.
I will say this again. I have tried to reinforce this quote. I will probably put it in a book at some point. It's not in any book, but
please, no more books.
Language of empiricism, the language of reason, the language of data, the language of statistics, the language of hard objective truth.
Well, again, I don't really see you using a lot of statistics. And, I agree that there's a need for empiricism and there's a need for statistics. But every time I've seen you try to use statistics, which is rare, by the way, you talk about statistics, but then don't actually use them from what I've seen. And I've seen a lot of your stuff. But that's not, the problem isn't that. The problem is that the misuse of statistics to say something like, I'm just going to use an example, like a made up, a fictional example here of something like, let's say the data showed that 90% of women who married after the age of 30 ended up cheating on their husbands. Well, then that would be a data point, and it would be worth, exploring why that is, like what there are common factors. And then, but a guy like Rollo would then say to like any guy who marries a woman after 30 in that case, like, oh, hey, you're a chump because the statistics say she's going to cheat on you. It's like, well, no, they don't necessarily, because that statistic is too broad to necessarily be meaningful. And then, everybody, like, the statistics show that data point taken in isolation leads to an increased risk, sure. But there's other factors that go into it. You can't just look at one data point and then say, oh, well, that's what that means. Don't do that. I mean, if he really was just saying that you need to be aware of the statistics so you can make better decisions, then he'd have something. That's like analytics like they use in, investing and in sports. But we all know that's not how these autistic guys use it.
Will always sound angry to believers, to emotionalists, to people who want to feel good at the end of the conversation.
No, I mean, again, it's not simple. It's simple stuff. You can tell, like, when somebody's angry. Okay. And, yeah, I mean, it's really clear. Now, there can be times where somebody could sound angry and not be, for a variety of reasons. Maybe they're trying to sound angry to get their point across. But, No, I mean, the red pillars sound angry and frustrated because they're angry and frustrated. Like you right now sound, I don't know if angry is the right word, but you sound agitated. Because you are, because you are agitated. Part of that's just your personality. Part of that's because you're getting into this whole one way convert diet. You're getting into this diatribe, and you're feeling frustration. That's okay. Nothing wrong with that, but that's what it is. And so, no, the people who it's not just that you're speaking truth and then people are misinterpreting that as anger. No, it's the people are calling you people are calling red pillars angry because they're angry.
Conversation. To people who think that happiness is a sustainable goal state that they can perpetuate for most of their lives. No, you can't. You're not supposed to. It is not the human condition. And so when we talk about, oh, well, they say, all women are like this or all men are like that. Well, okay. We can also look, so we have to balance that out. As I've said before, you can be again, it's the lie of individuation. You can, yes, are people these, unique, wonderful beings? Sure, they can be. There's no one like you. There's no one like you. There's no one like you. And you are an original creation, right? I mean, you're an original evolution, whatever it is. But there's commonalities, okay?
Yeah, and yes, and I see what he's saying, and anybody who's debated this kind of stuff with liberals understands that, which I certainly wouldn't recommend because again, like I said, they're incapable of understanding it. But there's something. I mean, anybody of us on the right has dealt with this kind of frustration, so he's got a point. But even beyond that, I would say that human beings in general are surprisingly interchangeable. This meme that like those of us online, are like real people and everybody else is just some normie NPC. An exaggeration to be sure, but there's something to it. People are surprisingly interchangeable. So in that sense, I'm gonna kind of go even beyond what Rollo's saying.
There are commonalities. Men and women are different. And we are different, but we are common amongst the way that the machine is built. And that's what we focus on in the red pill. That's what we focus on in the manosphere. We don't say, oh, well, everyone, it's not this deterministic, this horribly, inviolable determinism. We talk about this all the time. Yes, there are.
I mean, it kind of is. I mean, I mean, maybe not strictly, but there is a lot of that.
Things in your upbringing, there are things in your personality, there are things in your ethnicity, certainly in your gender, certainly in the way that you were raised, certainly where you were raised. There's a million different variables and factors, but there are commonalities amongst the machinery, and that's what we talk about. We don't go, oh, all women are the same or all men are the same. We don't. No one. If there is somebody in the manosphere, in the red pill community right now who is saying that, you send them to me. Okay, please do, because that is a bullshit.
Yeah. Okay. So leave it at that. Again, he left it kind of sounding reasonable, but it's Rollo. He's really not. And again, we've seen the way he interacts. That like regardless of the disclaimer he just gave us, that's not how he behaves when he's talking on the thing about stuff. He's just he does kind of treat it like all men or all women, or at least almost all men and all women are a certain way, particularly all women. That's all for now, and I'll see you in the next. Sorry this video wasn't very good.